What if humanity was never the point of the universe? What if the cosmos could go on spinning, silently, endlessly, without even noticing us? And what if, all along, we've been telling ourselves stories just to feel like we matter? Since the dawn of time, humans have believed we are central to the universe. In ancient myths, sacred scriptures, and even our bedtime tales, we've always cast ourselves as the protagonists, the chosen ones. The idea that life needs us isn't just comforting. It's a belief deeply rooted in our collective psyche. To question that is to disturb something primal in us. The conviction that everything would be meaningless without humanity. Long before we understood the sky, we saw lightning not as electricity, but as the wrath of gods. And still, we placed ourselves at the center of it all. Ancient civilizations didn't just worship deities, they built cosmic systems where gods created humans for a clear purpose, to rule, to govern, to act on behalf of the divine. Humanity wasn't an accident. We were designed with mission, with glory, with destiny. As stories evolved, so did our self-image. The idea that God created man in his own image wasn't merely religious comfort. It was a civilization-wide reinforcement of ego. We weren't just important, we were sanctified. Animals were made to serve, birds to signal. The weather, land to be plowed, trees to give shade and wood for temples. Everything had a place around us, just like planets orbit the sun. The universe wasn't a habitat, it was a stage, and we were the stars. Even when we entered the age of philosophy and science, this central role didn't fade. It simply changed form. Instead of saying God willed it, thinkers began saying human nature is noble. Mystery gave way to reason, but man remained the focus. In Greek thought, especially through Plato and Aristotle, humans were seen as seekers of truth capable of rising above their animal instincts. Logic and rationality became our new divine traits. Western civilization took this even further. The more rational we became, the more we were seen as deserving of existence itself. When religion lost its grip and science took over, many assumed the human ego would shrink. But it didn't. We let go of God only to crown progress in his place. Where once we were the image of the divine, now we became the pinnacle of natural selection, the final masterpiece of evolution. Today, our ability to code, explore the stars, and extend life feeds the same illusion. We may no longer worship in temples, but we measure, model, and simulate. We no longer pray, we invent. But underneath it all remains one timeless obsession: to feel unique, irreplaceable, central. This belief shapes our declarations of human rights, our missions to save the planet, and our philosophies of sustainable development. At the heart of it all lies an unspoken assumption that humanity must be preserved, protected, and prioritized. And that idea, so subtle yet so powerful, is what we'll continue to explore next. Would you share this with someone who still believes we are the universe's main character? Reflect on it, and let's keep unfolding this together. Now let's continue with the next chapter. We've just seen how humanity for millennia has insisted on its centrality, first through religion, then through reason. But even as we moved beyond sacred texts and into scientific thought, something remained constant beneath the surface: the self. It no longer clings to divine narratives, but now clutches tightly to a different claim: that we are the only species capable of self-reflection, as if this alone earns us the spotlight. The language may have evolved, but the story is the same. We're still the heroes. We may have stopped saying that God needs us, but we've quietly replaced that with a new faith that the universe somehow does. And in doing so, we've kept the illusion intact. But biology doesn't flatter us. From a biological perspective, humans aren't central at all. We're simply the result of a long, messy chain of mutations and selection. Random twists in the vast 3.8 billion year history of life on Earth. If that entire history were drawn across a 10-meter scroll, human civilization, everything we call achievement, would be a tiny dot at the very end. Fire, language, philosophy, the internet, all of it came after. Not the foundation, but a fleeting shimmer on the surface, a spark, not the source. Step back even further, and you'll see. In Earth's intricate ecosystem, humans are far from essential. Plants, fungi, bacteria, insects, these often overlooked life forms uphold the entire balance of life. Photosynthesis, decomposition, nutrient cycling, none of these depend on us. For billions of years, life on Earth thrived without our presence. And if we disappeared tomorrow, the rest of life would go on. Most species wouldn't grieve. They would adapt, evolve, or diverge into new paths entirely. Statistics show that 99% of all species that have ever existed are now extinct. This isn't a tragedy, it's how life works. Life tests, discards, restructures, and transforms. No cosmic tribunal decides which species deserves to stay. No judgment is passed on those who vanish. Species come and go as part of the current. No sorrow, no ceremony, and within that flow, humans are simply one biological experiment among millions. Maybe we're an evolutionary success, or maybe we're a short-lived misstep. Either way, from a cosmic standpoint, our insignificance is undeniable. The solar system, where Earth orbits an average star in a minor spiral arm of the Milky Way, is just one speck among hundreds of billions of galaxies, each galaxy teeming with stars, each star a potential host for planets. The scale is staggering. And with it comes a chilling realization. The universe doesn't need to be seen to function. Planets spin, stars burn, and supernovae explode in the dark, regardless of whether any eyes are watching. The distant light we glimpse from galaxies was emitted millions, sometimes billions of years before we existed. Some of it might never be seen by any conscious being, yet it still shines. It still fades. It still matters in its own rhythm. The truth is sobering. Our observation, or absence, does not alter the universe's unfolding. There is no evidence it waits for us to discover it. No sign it becomes more complete because we're here. But perhaps the more humbling the truth, the more important the next question becomes. Would you still claim the universe needs you, now that you've seen how little it notices? Let's step into the next part and confront the deeper implications ahead. If the universe doesn't need our presence, it also doesn't need our approval. That's the uncomfortable truth we brushed up against before. And now we step deeper into it. The laws of physics, whether gravity, electromagnetism, or quantum mechanics, function independently of human thought. They didn't begin to exist when we discovered them. They were always there, unfolding silently, whether or not anyone was watching, naming, or wondering. This realization pulls the rug from under the grand illusion that human awareness somehow validates reality. But the cosmos doesn't operate on our terms. It neither denies us nor acknowledges us. Its indifference isn't cruel. It's perfect. Neutrality. It doesn't care whether we exist or what meaning we give to things or what traces we leave behind. And perhaps this is the most unsettling truth for the human ego to face. Life in its purest essence is not moral. It doesn't lean toward goodness, nor does it scheme toward evil. Every value we assign, good or bad, is merely our mind's attempt to interpret, control, or emotionally survive a world far bigger than our grasp. But peel back those interpretations, and life reveals itself in its rawest form, without sentiment, without goals, without sides. It arrives not out of love, and it doesn't disappear in vengeance. It just moves, cold, neutral, impersonal, with no hidden hand guiding its dance. We often mistake nature for being nurturing, We call the forest mother, the river gentle, the sky a loving canopy. But these images don't come from nature itself. They come from within us. The forest doesn't raise us. The river doesn't flow for us. And the sky doesn't clear to comfort us. The scorching drought, the storms that sweep away villages, the fires that consume ancient trees. These aren't acts of anger or punishment. They're simply the outcomes of physics, chemistry, and biology moving through a system with no intention at all. Even the wonders we revere, the miracle of reproduction, the precision of food chains, the balance among species, are not engineered. There's no blueprint behind them, no divine plan hidden in the ecology. These are the results of countless years of blind, unguided interaction between variables in a game without winners or referees. No benevolent brain fine-tunes the conditions. No mind is writing a story. What unfolds is a dance of structure and circumstance, colliding and adapting again and again. It praises no one. It blames no one. It doesn't take sides. From that perspective, life doesn't even know it's alive. A tree is unaware it's photosynthesizing. A bacterium doesn't realize it's multiplying. Animals aren't conscious of their own evolution. All of it happens flawlessly, without knowing. We humans, gifted with self-awareness, are an outlier. But it's precisely this rare awareness that leads us to a profound misunderstanding, that to know is to be the essence of life. It is not. Life has existed and thrived for billions of years without once needing to know itself. It requires no consciousness to persist, no thought to sustain, no reverence to continue. That's why when humans say life ought to be beautiful, that nature should be kind, or that the universe must be fair, we're layering our own subjectivity onto a system that doesn't speak that language. And when someone good dies, why do we feel so betrayed? Let's continue to explore what happens when human ideals crash against a reality that doesn't notice. Ready for the next part? Let's keep walking into the silence behind the story. Previously, we confronted the idea that life doesn't operate with meaning, morality, or sentiment. Now, we enter the space where that realization hits something deeper, something raw and personal. When gentle creatures go extinct, when disasters strike without blame, we instinctively search for fairness. But from life's perspective, no one is punished and no one is rewarded. Nothing is being judged and nothing is being declared right or wrong. Everything is simply unfolding, like water flowing downhill, wind slipping through mountain passes, or stones falling through gravity's pull. Life doesn't arrive to please us, and it doesn't ask for our approval to function. There is a coldness in this vision, but it's not cruelty. It's impersonal, not malicious. It's not injustice. It's absence of intention. A vast system moves forward, soulless, aimless, centerless, and yet it grows, it shifts, it changes without pause. And in that massive flow, if we dare to look directly, we no longer appear as the protagonist of a story heading toward resolution. We become something much smaller, a fleeting vapor drifting through a symphony that has no conductor. And that's where something in us starts to tremble. Not in logic, but in something buried deeper, in the structure of what it feels like to exist. For so long, the sense of being acknowledged, of being needed, of existing within a purposeful frame, has quietly supported our will to live. It's an invisible architecture. But once that framework collapses, what remains is not another answer. What remains is a void. That void doesn't call out to us. It doesn't arrive with a name. But when it appears, the pillars of our inner world begin to shake. The question, what am I if no one needs me, is not about career or relationships. It pierces the core of selfhood, the part of us that needs someone to witness our existence, to reflect it back, to make it real. If no one sees me, if I serve no role, if no value system gives me a place, then what am I, really, beyond a body passing through this moment? This is a question that philosophy can't resolve. Comforting. Words can't soothe it. It doesn't shout. It waits, like a silent chasm lying just beneath the surface of daily life. From this point on, the true shape of an existential crisis begins to reveal itself. Unlike emotional shocks, which can be traced to personal events, this isn't about something that happened. It's the implosion of the entire framework of meaning itself. The once uplifting slogans, "Everything happens for a reason," "Live with purpose," "Everyone has a mission," suddenly ring hollow, not because we've stopped believing, but because we finally see what they are. Beautiful stickers we've tried to press onto life, only to realize they never really stuck. As the emptiness expands, part of us will resist. The self will panic, reaching for old beliefs or crafting new illusions. A fresh philosophy, a deeper spirituality, a nobler cause. But if we're radically honest in what we see, if we don't flinch, then we stop trying to patch it. We let the scaffolding fall. One by one, morality, ideals, religion, purpose, even knowledge don't get destroyed. They simply dissolve because there's nothing holding them up anymore. And in that collapse, many will feel the full weight of disorientation. With no truths left to cling to, no goals to pursue, no identity to become, every former effort begins to feel like arms reaching into empty air. But what if that very collapse is not the end, but the opening? Let's walk into that stillness and see what may be waiting on the other side. In the aftermath of letting all meaning collapse, something strange begins to unfold. Not noise, not answers, but silence. It feels like drifting in a weightless space, with no edges to push against, no direction to move toward. There's nothing to define you, nothing to resist, and nowhere to land. In that kind of void, language falters. Every concept we once leaned on vanishes. There is no good me or bad me, no right path or wrong turn, no higher or lower. What remains is a raw, unadorned presence, no identity, no purpose, no destination. And yet, paradoxically, in that nameless emptiness, something subtle starts to take root. It's not a solution. It's not a new belief. It's a stillness. A clarity that doesn't explain, doesn't justify, it simply is. A kind of existence no longer tasked with meaning, no longer tethered to a role, no longer in need of approval. It isn't a loss. It's a quiet restoration. The old scaffolding has fallen. But instead of wreckage, what is revealed is a form of being that was always there, hidden beneath the striving. Life, no longer needing to be possessed, labeled, or held, is finally free to just be. And only in this state do we experience something radical, living not for anything, not to become enlightened, not to be right, not even to leave a legacy. Just living, as if no one is watching. This isn't neglect. It's not indifference. It's a return. A return to a more primal, unfiltered way of existing, where actions are no longer driven by the hunger to be seen, to be recorded, to be measured. Most of modern life, consciously or unconsciously, is shaped by external eyes. We act not merely to act, but to be noticed acting. We live not just to live, but to make a mark, to be remembered, if only in the mind of one other person, or a line of text on a social feed. This craving for recognition is woven into the survival architecture of the ego. It convinces us that we exist only when someone acknowledges our existence. It plants a subtle illusion that life has value only when it's validated. And so, step by step, we begin living beneath imagined surveillance. The gaze of others, the gaze of society, even the imagined gaze of a divine presence, watching our every move. But life doesn't require an audience to be real. A flower still blooms when no one's around. A stream still flows when no one's there to hear it. These things do not perform. They simply are. They don't need to be remembered. They don't ask to be praised. They don't try to be preserved. And because they aren't manipulated by the desire to be seen or celebrated, they exist in a rare purity. They don't carry the burden of becoming something more. And that transparency, when there's no witness behind it, reveals a kind of being few ever touch. No more posturing to impress. No more striving to become a symbol. No more building scenes to meet someone else's expectations. Every gesture, every word, every breath becomes lighter because it no longer has to step outside itself to be enough. It doesn't try to please. It doesn't try to shine. It simply is. And in that, it becomes whole. When people begin to live as though no one is keeping score, they inch closer to something sacred. Untangled from the pull of judgment, freed from the fragmentation of opinions, unburdened by the need to constantly shape themselves to fit. What are they left with? Let's move toward that answer, together, in the next part. When the need to be seen fades, when we stop performing for the world, something else begins to unfold, something quieter, deeper, more real. People begin to live like nature does, without a goal to accomplish, without a scoreboard to track, without an image to sculpt or protect. And because of that, every moment begins to feel heavier with presence, softer in sound, and richer in texture. The silence of a life that no longer seeks validation becomes its own form of liberation. This doesn't erase the human. It simply dissolves the shadow we've been dragging behind us for centuries. The shadow of expectations, the weight of image, the longing to be remembered. When we are no longer bound by the question, what will others think? We re-enter the vast current of life as a humble element. Like a leaf falling without warning, like a breeze that passes without a name, like morning light that never demands to be noticed. And perhaps only in that state does true living begin. Not to leave a mark, not to prove a point, but simply because life itself is reason enough. When all meanings have dropped away, when no external reason can be found, when the urge to become someone goes quiet, what remains is not nothingness. It is life, stripped down to its most irreducible form. A way of living that is no longer bloated by ideas, no longer stretched by ambition, no longer driven by anyone's expectation. It is not loud, it is not central, it is not important in the way the world defines importance. And yet, it is entirely present. Like a dust particle suspended in sunlight, that kind of being takes up no space, demands no attention, and yet it is, fully and clearly. It doesn't wear masks, it doesn't decorate itself, it doesn't perform. It isn't trying to fit in, and it isn't rebelling to stand out. It simply exists, floating inside an ever-moving web of life. It asks for no special place. It resists nothing. And in giving up the need to be the center, something astonishing is revealed. There is a deeper order underneath it all. An order not designed around anyone, but one in which everything belongs. Like a forest without boundaries, where countless forms of life overlap, bump into each other, intertwine, then disappear. No leader, no spotlight, no script, only the silent choreography of a world that has no stage, and yet performs perfectly in every corner. To live like that doesn't mean disappearing, but it does mean no longer being someone. You're no longer the anchor of any personal story, no longer the narrator, the listener, or the hero of an imagined journey. You become a space, an opening, not empty, but unfilled by ego. A transparency through which life can move without resistance. Not because you've become important, not because you've reached enlightenment, but simply because life doesn't need you, and yet it flows through you, if you are still enough, not to interfere. Thank you for walking this far with Buddhism Echo, not as an audience, but as someone quietly listening, not to us, but to your own self. Let this silence continue beyond this moment, into the next unfolding of your awareness.